In this lecture, we're going to talk about that how X-rays are produced. Theory of X-rays was accidentally given. It was not pre-planned. When a scientist named as roentagen bombards the high-coming electrons with high intensity to a heavy metal atom, he found out that there is some kind of radiation coming out. And he termed that radiation as roentgen rays, and later on these rays was named as X-rays because we know that X-rays means unknown. There's no identification, there has no properties, it is unknown rays. So when roentgen bombards electron from the high intensity of the 5000 volts on the heavy metals like Au, gold, he found out the radiation and he termed it as X-rays. This experiment held in a discharge tube. There were two ways to explain X-rays. First way is known as Bremsstrahlung ray and second way is known as characteristics radiation. Now, in first way, it is termed that when a battery gives an high intensity electrons towards the atom of the heavy metal, suppose this is a heavy metal Au. Now when fast moving electrons with high intensity reaches the atom of the gold, it penetrates till it reaches the nucleus, and when it reaches the nucleus it just bends due to the attraction. It bends due to the attraction. Now when nucleus attracts the electron of high intensity becomes a low intensity electron, and the energy that it releases is termed as X-rays. Now there is a question, then where did the electron goes? As we know that it was penetrating at very high speed, so when it bends it loses its intensity, it loses its energy and it becomes a low intensity electron. Now this is called the Bremsstrahlung model. Now that can be at the K shell, like we know that heavy atoms are mostly have the K, L, M, N, O, all the shells. So the electron passes from all shells and penetrates. Now characteristics radiation is much different than this. Just suppose a battery, it gives out electrons of high intensity. When these electrons reaches the K shell, it strikes with the electron present in it, and when it strikes with that electron, this electron is kicked out and the electron that comes from the battery also kicks out. In this way, there becomes a valency in the K shell, and this valency filled by the L shell. Electron in L shell fills the valency in shell K, and when this electron de-excitizes, means de-excitations happen. In this way the radiation comes out, and that is termed as X-rays. Now if the electrons have low intensity, it will only reach the L shell. And then we will say that there would be a valency in the L shell, and M shell will fill the valency of the L shell, and in this way, when it fills the valency, there would be a radiation emitting out, and that radiation is termed as X-rays. Now there are some names given to it. If the valency in K shell is filled by the L shell, we name that shell as K alpha shells. K alpha shells. If the M shells fills the valency of K shells, we will term that is beta shells. If the valency of K shells is filled by the N shell, we will term it as gamma rays. These are some different names given to it. And as I told you that electron coming with low intensity also reaches the L shell. So if there is valency in L shell and valency of L shell is filled by the K shell, or we can say M shell, so we will term it as alpha. If valency is filled by N shell, we will term it as beta. If valency is filled by O shells, we will term it as gamma. And in this way, the process begins or process starts. We will just term the upper orbits as alpha, beta and gamma series wise. And that's all about today's lecture.